So Yuuhime has been out for a while now, and I've tested her out in several content, and hopefully I can answer whether you should summon for her or skip her. But before I get into that, just know that with every character, if you like that character, just go for it, right? The purpose of a game is to have fun. I've done that several times. Like for example, I summon on Embla, I summon on Yunchuan, knowing full well that they are going to be garbage in PvP, except for R2 Embla, she's pretty good. I summon for them because I like their kit, and also they are good for a content that I liked, which was the Sentinel Hunt. But now that they've butchered that game mode, I don't really care about them anymore. Okay, right off the bat, if you're early to mid game, you can completely skip her. She's not going to help you clear content, but rather make it faster, which is what I'm gonna go through. So for PvE, Temporal Tower, she does make it faster because she adds double AoE and also constant defense break on her S2. I went from floor 1 to floor 49 in like 20 minutes with her. It is very good. Infinity Tower, she is not going to help you clear it, but she does make it slightly faster. But the thing is, with Yuuhime in your team, it's not a safe team because you're sacrificing one slot for, you know, potentially a stunner or a AP pusher. So she's not gonna make your Infinity Tower run safer, which means you're gonna get more failed runs, which means your fast clear time is kind of negligible because you're getting in more attempts and more fail with her rather than using a safer route like a AP controller in her spot or a stunner, right? So the faster clear time with Yuuhime in Infinity Tower is kind of neglected by having more attempts and more failed runs. So in Infinity Tower, I wouldn't recommend running her at all. For Cube 8, she is decent if you don't have any speed lead, or sorry, if you don't have enough speed to outspeed the enemy. But the thing is with Cube 8, once you can outspeed the enemy, you don't really want to run a speed lead anymore. You just want to run an attack lead and then bring a Jangman, and then the rest of your DPS is just to enable Jangman. So you run one AP push or two AP push, and then you run a Jangman, Mona even, and then one more AoE unit. And that comp just completely cleaves the Cube 8 very easily. So the addition of Yuuhime doesn't really provide much to Cube 8. She's just there if you don't have enough speed to outspeed the enemies, then you can run her as a speed lead. Then she could have help because her damage is, again, it's not really that much as a cleaver. So I wouldn't run her in Cube 8 as well. If you can outspeed that Cube 8, you don't really need her. Now Calamity Island, unfortunately I've not tested her out in the Inferno Tower because I didn't have enough time to play it on that day. But I have no doubt that she's going to be very good for that tower because Inferno typing does not have any AoE defense breaker, and she's the first one, and she provides AoE defense break on every turn that she gets, which is very good. The thing with Calamity Island is that it's not particularly about the enemies being difficult to kill, but rather it's the time limit. So yeah, you want to clear the enemies as fast as possible, and she's going to help with that because she has constant defense break. So for Calamity Island, I would say she's very good. For the shadow bosses, I wouldn't recommend you to run her on any of them, even Shadowfire, because she doesn't have any strong single target damage. She might help you clear the ads, but the thing is you can just run a Jangman, and then Jangman can clear house very easily. She can't even, her AoE doesn't even do that much damage, so she struggles to clear the ads even though she can spam the AoE during that phase. So yeah, I wouldn't run her in shadow bosses as well. For PvE, I've mostly talked negatives of her, but for PvP, that's where she shines. Point War, I've tested her out in Cleave team. She's okay in a Cleave team because we kind of like Inferno AoE units. Li Ling is very weak, his damage is very subpar. Her damage is very good if she can land the HP cap, but if she cannot land the HP cap, Li Ling's damage is actually better than her. So there's that. But aside from that, you can now run her as the speed lead. If you're going up against someone running a speed lead, then you can run her as speed lead instead of Ollie, because Ollie doesn't add much to your cleave team. So yeah, that could help you out a little bit in the damage department. But aside from that, if you're running out point war cleave team on auto, then Luo Yan is just better than her. Luo Yan does way more damage than her because of the interaction with max HP cap. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you should check out the previous video that I posted on that interaction. Now the next team that I've tested her out in is the troll meme team with Alexa, and that team is very good against a tank team that doesn't have any buff stripper. It has like a 80 or 90% win rate against those teams. Even R6 across the board, it can win. But against a buff stripper, it's like insta lose because it's very reliant on the buffs that Alexa provide. Any other team that doesn't utilize the Alexa's buff, if you're running a Yuuhime, I don't think it's gonna work because any other buffs can be stolen by Hyde. If it isn't a silver border buff, then it could just be stolen by Hyde. And she is a counter magnet. Every time she moves, she's going to do either her S3, which is AoE, or her S2, which is also AoE. And Hyde, in all of those AoE, can just counter her, steal her buffs. But if you're running a silver border buff, then he cannot steal that buff nor strip it. Aside from those two teams, so cleave teams and the meme team, I don't actually see her being good in any other team, although it's still too early to say that. The thing is, her multipliers are very low. She cannot be run as a solo DPS because her S2 only has a maximum of 105% multiplier, which is very low, and then her S3 only has 110% or 120% multiplier, which is again very low. And then in knockout, she's going to help your cleave team because now your cleave team can be reliably ran on auto. You now have a additional AoE unit that can do HP cap. Luo Yan doesn't work on auto, and she also provides that speed lead. So if you're going up against a team 1 that has speed lead, you can use your cleave team while running her as the speed lead. You can also run that meme team if you're facing against enemies that doesn't have any buff stripper. So all in all, I've only found 2 teams that is somewhat good for her, and her kit is extremely mid. But there is one thing going on for her, and that is the speed lead. The speed lead carries a unit farther than you can imagine. Now look at Ollie, right? Ollie is the first banner unit that we got on global, and he's still running rampant in PvP. Now, regardless of what you think his kit is, I think his kit is extremely mid. Why do I say that? Because I want you guys to go to Point War and then refresh and see, is there anyone running an Ollie in their team aside from him being in the leader spot? If you don't find him in any team composition with him not being in the leader spot, that just basically means his kit is mid because people don't run him for his skills. Saving one ally is not something huge, to be honest. Saving one ally from dying and then retaliate with a damage that is very subpar, in my opinion. It doesn't one shot. It's going to get healed back up to full. You're mostly going to be building him as a bruiser, so he's not going to do damage anyways. Yeah, he's a passive, very passive unit that doesn't really offer much to the team, and that's why you don't see people running him in a team comp aside from him being in the leader spot. So Ollie in CA is a prime example of a unit that is completely carried by their leader skill. Now Ollie is still good in the comp where people run R2 Ethan and R2 Changji, because with that comp, the R2 Changji, if someone snipes him, it's basically a loss for that team. But with Ollie, he can save Changji, and that's why he's used in those variants of team instead of TA. So Ollie's kit is extremely mid, TA's kit is extremely mid. But why are they, sort of must summon? Basically because of their speed lead. And that's the same thing with Yuuhime. In my opinion, she is a must summon in endgame because speed, or rather getting turn 1, is always going to be a massive factor in DISLYTE. By getting turn 1, you can control how the game goes, you can speed cleave, you can set up your defenses before the enemy, you can stun them, you can do whatever you want, you control the match. Going second, you have to rely on RNG, and that's the reason why speed lead is still a thing in DISLYTE. And that's my thoughts on her. Her kit is extremely mid, but the fact that she's carried by her speed lead, she is a must summon, well, at least for me. Get her R0, R2, I would actually just wouldn't go there, because if you saw Kovian's video on her R2, it will eat up additional Hell's Hand stacks, which will make her usability worse. So I don't know, that's a bit weird. If you get her to R2, if you can get her to R2, then I would actually just hold off giving the resonance to her. Unless you can get to R3 or above, then yeah, R2 is actually detrimental to her. It doesn't even add that much damage. It's just like 15% extra damage, which is a completely nothing burger. But yeah, that's my thoughts on Yuuhime. Let me go through the verdict again. If you're early or mid game, completely skip her. Very easy skip. But if you're end game, I think she's a must summon. Yeah, that's it. Ciao.